I spent 15 years in the U.S. Army. I got out in 2003 in a personal protest. I've been speaking about depleted uranium for about 3 years now. Finally, we're starting to break the code in this madness. So for those of you who haven't seen it, Beyond Treason is the documentary that closes the deal. It talks about everything from vaccinations to uranium to some ungodly things that they've been doing since the atomic testing in World War II. My 15 years in the Army were, they were crazy, they were ludicrous, but I come from 4 generations of combatants. Unlike my friend Seth Rick, who lives in Northern California, he comes from 4 generations of pacifists. So like, we're best friends now, 4th generation pacifist, best friend with a 4th generation aggressivist. So, you know, guys like Darrell and I, we're in transition, we're in evolution, we're hope. We're actually hope for you that we could see a better day. My obligation has been, since I returned from the battlefield, even as a soldier, even though I stayed in after I got back, was to reach down one generation and talk to our young people. Like this little guy right here. Right, that's what we got to do, have an obligation to do that. So tomorrow, make sure you reach down one generation to somebody and let them know that you heard Darrell Anderson, a guy who's been in exile for 18 months. He lived in exile for 18 months because of this administration and their policies. No other reason. It's not because he doesn't like his country. It's not like he doesn't like his fellow countrymen. He had to live in exile because of the policies of this government. My 15 years in the Army, I was a medic. I'll just take you through this uniform real quick so that you can understand what Napoleon did to the guys to hop them all up and start giving them badges to make them feel like we're little Boy Scouts, actually. I got airborne wings. I got an expert field medical badge. I have a drill sergeant badge. I was a U.S. Army drill sergeant on Fort Bliss and Fort Sill, Oklahoma. So as a drill sergeant, I was 24 years old. I was Darrell's age. I'm 37 now. There's your generation gap. I was in Desert Storm in 1991. Darrell was in Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2003. There's your 12-year generation gap. I'm 12 years older than him, and our battles are 12 years apart. However, it's the same war. Is there anybody in here who doesn't believe this is the same war? Okay, if you don't, just in case you didn't want to raise your hand, the book, the Veterans Administration Handbook of Federal Benefits, which I get because I'm a 20% disabled veteran, states in it very specifically that the Gulf War started on 2 August 1990 and will end on a date to be determined by Congress. It ain't over yet. Darrell and I are in the same war. I was in Operation Desert Shield, Operation Desert Storm. Since then, there's been Operation Northern Watch, Operation Southern Watch, Operation Desert Fox, Operation Iraqi Freedom. Well, actually, before that, there was Operation Iraqi Liberation, OIL. That didn't work, though. So what you can see here is that in the old days, you'd have one war, a bunch of battles. Battle of Quai San, Battle of the Bulge, battles, battles, battles. They don't do that to us anymore. One war, a bunch of operations. Wordsmithing. Depleted uranium used to be known as depleted uranium low-level radioactive material. After 1991, it's referred to as DU. The Department of Defense is professional at wordsmithing. That's how they dupe guys like Darrell and I into thinking that we're defending something when we're actually aggressors. So since 1995, which is when I got promoted to sergeant, basically, I've lived about 8-9 years as an E5. I never was promoted. Because I learned real early, at 24 years old, that the military was using up guys. As a drill sergeant, I realized I was the bell in Pavlov's study. If you understand what I'm saying, then you understand. If you don't, I'll just briefly do it, and then I'm going to have Darrell come up here and we're going to demonstrate it. That's going to be my introduction for you. Because what's happening here is, if you read, his name is, let me preface it. He is a psychologist, and he runs the ROTC program at Arkansas State. He's a full colonel. Hubbard. The book is called On Killing. It states very specifically we're using Pavlovian techniques and R.E. Skinner techniques to train the soldiers. It states very specifically in it that's how they've increased the rate. In World War II, they say the statistics were 15% of the troops would engage downrange and kill somebody. Why? Because we're all conscientious objectors. We would rather die first than kill somebody else. That's the psychology of the human. So how are we talking soldiers into reach 96%? That's what they're at now. 96% of the soldiers will go downrange and kill. How do they do it? They did it using Pavlov and R.E. Skinner techniques. It's not brainwashing. It's just reprogramming. We just got a new file we're using. All of a sudden, we're yelling towel head, things like that. I did it. They're doing it. So I want to demonstrate that for you so you can see how easy it is. I'm not sure, maybe this cat that's hanging out with Darrell wants to come up and give it a try. But what you'll notice is that in just a flip of the switch, this drill sergeant can go right back on time. He say, good afternoon, class. My name is Drill Sergeant Kyne, the X block of instruction where the name, explain, demonstrate, and you're going to conduct practical work on is a 30-inch step from a halt. 30-inch step from a halt is a two-part command. The preparatory command is forward. The command of execution is march. On the preparatory command, you'll shift all your weight to your right foot. On the command of execution, march, you'll step off with your 30-inch step on the left. Is that clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So now what we'll do, Darrell, ladies and gentlemen, Darrell, demonstrator, post. See? He doesn't do it anymore. We're your hope. That's your hope right there. The hope is that I'm off the battlefield since 1991, and I'm the only guy from Desert Storm who's talking about this. There's a reason. There's a reason. 20,000 Desert Storm veterans are incarcerated for rape or violent crime. Timothy McVeigh, John Allen Muhammad are Desert Storm veterans. There's 250,000 of us that get a check for disabilities from the VA. 15,000 of us were dead by 1995. So why is that happening? Everybody's sick, they're deranged. We have an obligation to these guys. Whether I'm in or out or anything, whether I'm a human on this earth, if we do not survive these guys, they will not be around 12 years to talk about this. Period. They're not here anymore. They're out in the gutters, they're sleeping under the overpasses, they're dying. They're homeless, they're hungry. So I kind of just put my depleted uranium message aside. I've been working with the resistance for the last 3 months. That's why I'm wearing this jacket and all decked up. I want to tell people, I left in 2003. I've been waiting for Darrell to get here. So he's got legal bills. He's got a lawyer he owes some money. He's got a Purple Heart. He's got all kinds of stuff going for him. But he still needs us. He needs us a lot. And so with all the love in the world from my friend, my newest friend on this whole planet, I just met him in November at the School of America's protest. I love you dearly, brother. Darrell Anderson.
You guys rock in Portland, you know it. I'm just gonna pass around some pictures so you could just know that I'm real and I was there. Just the pictures to show it. Pass them around. All right, start at the beginning. January 03, I decided to join the military because I was broke. I was tired of dealing drugs on the streets, and I was tired of living with my grandparents, and I was tired of not going to school, and I was tired of being American without health care. So I said, time, cut my hair, go clean cut, conform to this society, and join the military. They'll give me 50 G's for college, they'll straighten me out. So I joined up, and my mom freaked out, said, you're going to war. I said, I want to go to war. I've been waiting my whole life to go to some combat and do something crazy like that. I don't got much to live for. What's me dead gonna matter? I'll be a hero. I'll be remembered a great person instead of that dude that worked at the grocery store. So I signed up, shipped off, took a year in training, ended up in Germany, and the war started. I joined January 03. The war started March. I was in basic training, and the drills were building us up. You guys are going to war. Get ready. And after a year of training, I finally got to Germany. I was like, they've been telling me I'm going to war for a whole year. I'm ready to go. And I got there and found out my unit had already been in Iraq, in Baghdad, Baghdad, for 7 months. And they said, Anderson, you get on a plane a month, you're going to Baghdad. Started drinking in Germany, started partying. I remember the night I couldn't wait to put on these DCUs. I couldn't wait to put on that desert cami and those boots that I didn't have to shine and go to war. And I remember I was sitting there waiting. And I remember we shipped out, took a week or so to get to we dive bombed into downtown Baghdad. Got to the airport, trained for a week. Saddam was there, they were bombing us. And I realized I was at war when I was sitting in my boxers in my Kevlar in a bomb shelter when they were hitting us, trying to free Saddam or, I don't know, kill him probably, I don't know. So then I go, my unit comes and picks me up. And it was even a trip because the other guys, their units came to pick them up, and they had dead Iraqis in the back of their truck. And they were like, man, they got dead Iraqis in the back of the truck, and they're taking us into our unit. And I was tripping out. Why they got dead Iraqis in the back of the truck? So I get to my unit in Baghdad, and I'm like, what are we doing? What's going on? And the guys were like, man, there's no weapons of mass destruction. The Iraqis don't want us here, and we're just trying to make it alive. And I was like, oh, okay. And they said, Anderson, you know, go hop up on that Humvee and gun that 50 caliber machine gun. I said, Sergeant, I've never been in a Humvee before. I've never manned this machine gun. I'm artillery. We pull strings and we shoot, you know, we shoot artillery rounds downrange. And well, now you're doing raids, observation points, traffic stops, and anything else we can think of you to do. And when I first got there, I realized the racism that the soldiers had. It was obvious to me when they talked about the Iraqis and they called them towelheads and every other name they could think of, and it really took me back. And I was like, wow, like my whole life I've been taught that this is wrong. We can't be, you know, treating people like this. But it was obvious that it came from higher than that, is that they were brainwashed into believing that Iraqis are less than them and they're all terrorists, and if you kill an Iraqi it's okay because another dead Iraqi is a good Iraqi. And I didn't agree with this. And then started to talk to the guys, and these 3 guys, they came to me and they boasted to me of how they had beaten a prisoner to death, and how one guy from the front punched him and the 2 on the side kicked him in the head and he just dropped. And I was like, you know, well, what'd you guys do that for? They said, he's a mortar man. He killed a couple of our guys, so we had to take him out. And I was like, the guy was handcuffed with a bag on his head. And so I didn't say nothing. I wasn't going to try and get these guys mad. And then I talked to 2 other guys. And these guys, they had killed whole families at traffic stops. But it wasn't their fault. They were procedure. They come to the traffic stop, you shoot. And these guys told me, you know, I killed the father and his 3 daughters. And then that really hit me. But I was there January, February, March, no combat. We're just riding around Baghdad. I'm happy. I'm waving at Iraqis, throwing them candy, just thinking like, this isn't war. What's going on? And then Bush said, bring it on. And in April of '04 was the month that the most soldiers died in the war till last December. And basically, the more guys we lost, the more we killed. The more guys we lost, the more drastic our procedures got. And we have some procedures that went like this. If we're in this crowd and one of you, just one of you could all be peaceful protesters in downtown Baghdad, but if one of you shoots at me, my superiors told me, if you get shot at, you shoot everybody that is there. Now this wasn't our procedure in January, February, March, but once we were scraping our buddies off the concrete, we started to act out, just like they did in Vietnam. And I'm going to take you through this. Basically, these events happened in 2 days. And these was like the days that I really saw combat in downtown Baghdad that really shook me to the core. And the first day, we were on an observation point, and it was a joke because we were actually on someone else's base, on one of their buildings, watching. We're like, what are we doing? We're usually out in the city. And sure enough, I'm watching the street, I'm on the radio, RPGs, rocket propelled grenades start flying across the street, and they're attacking the Iraqi police station. So we run down, we get in our vehicles, and it's just right around the corner. And I remember sitting in the back thinking like, all right, I'm going to combat today, this is it. And we get down there and we unload, and there's some guys down there and we got to go down there and get them out. And so I remember my sergeant hops in the vehicle and he rolls down there. And I remember I was standing there and I was looking at my friend and this medic, she's a female, and they're bunkered in. And I was like, what am I supposed to do? And next thing I know, RPGs start flying over my head. And I'm just watching them fly by. And I look down, they're like, I just see them yelling at me. You know, yelling. They're like, get down, hide, and I'm just standing there watching the RPGs. And then they hop in the vehicles and they start going down the road, and they're like, Anderson, just walk down there. So I start running. You know, next thing I know, AK fire is trickling by my feet. So I really start running down there. And I get down there and I slide down in the vehicle and I look back and RPGs are hitting the Humvees back there. And this one guy had his guts ripped open. And the female that was there, she was holding the guy's guts now. And we took fire for a few hours. Luckily, we only lost that one guy. And then we set up a traffic stop. And we said, anybody comes, gun them down. One car came, we get away, they turned away. Second car, third car, the fourth car didn't stop. And I was positioned this way, and the other guys were guarding this way. And the car came and stopped in front of my position, and it was my military procedure. They've come through our safety perimeter. I'm supposed to fire. The first 3 cars I saw were families, and I figured the same. And I didn't fire. And then I hear my superior barking at me, "What are you doing, Anderson? What are you doing?" And I said, "What do you mean, Sarge? It's a family." And now the windows roll down, I see 2 kids in the back. And I said, "Hey, it's a family, I did the right thing." And he said, "No, you didn't. Next time you will fire or be punished." And I said, "Oh, I'm not gonna kill no innocent people. I'm brown. These people are the same as me. I look like them more than you, Sarge." And he said, "Well, you better get your act together." And I was like, "Well, I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna do this." But the next day, we go back out into combat, and I'm sitting inside our howitzer, and we get hit by RPGs. And I'm sitting there, I'm sitting Indian style, and there's this fellow soldier sitting Indian style looking at me, and we hear it, and we open our eyes, and sure enough, PFC Hagos falls on top of me. And he's hitting his shoulder, and we're taking his gear off, and he's spitting up blood. And he's like, "Am I gonna die?" And I'm like, "I think he's dead. I think he's gone." I'm telling him, "No, you're gonna be okay. We're gonna get you to safety." And this guy, I know what kind of cookies his grandmother made for him as a kid. I know the name of the girl he took to prom. I know every kind of story, funny story this kid did growing up, because we spent, I don't know how many months sitting in front of the gate, just sitting there together. And I feel this hate, and I feel this anger. And I look around and I see a bunch of scared 19-year-old boys that don't want to take his place. And I'm thinking I'm who at the time, so I go up there. My chief's up there, I gotta be with him. Your chief is your sergeant in charge of your section. And I go up there, and what's my procedure? Run to attack, shoot everything I see. So I take my weapon, I aim, and I pull the trigger. But this is the first time I've ever even tried to fire my weapon. My weapon's unsafe. So I switch it to fire, I look again, and I'm aiming at a 14-year-old boy, 12, 14, he's running. And I was like, well, what was I gonna do? I could have killed that guy if I wasn't an idiot. If I would have done what I was supposed to and had my weapon on fire, I would have killed him. And I kind of stood back, and then I looked to the left, and I see another Iraqi man waving, "Don't shoot." And then I look down at my friend, and he's still spitting up blood. So I remember holding my weapon at him and cussing at him, and I kept acting like I was going to shoot him, because I wanted to. I wanted to kill that man. And it was that day that I realized no matter how righteous or how good I think I am, that it's going to overcome me. And you see these soldiers that are torturing and killing and raping. When they were 18 years old, they went and joined the army because they wanted to do good in this world. They wanted to do these great things. And then the military trained them how to be killers and then sent them to a war, and all they know how to do in the military is kill. And that's all they teach us, how to kill. So are these soldiers to blame, or is it the society they're put into? I tell people, because some people, anti-war people, still are like, these guys are monsters. And I say, okay, you go spend a year in Iraq and you don't commit war crimes. Because it'll overcome you. It's this hate, this anger. And I remember one night, it was my night off, and it was like, oh, this is the one night in like a month I'm going to get to sleep the whole night. And I get woken up at 3 in the morning to go guard the prisoners that we took in. And I remember sitting there, 22 years old, 3 in the morning, been watching my buddies die all month, and I'm mad that I'm here. I'm mad that I'm up at 3 in the morning. you know, I should be mad at the president, I should be mad at my country, but I'm looking at these two prisoners right here and I'm pissed at these guys. And they're sitting there handcuffed with bags on their head. And I sat there for a whole hour, smoking a black and mild cigar, and every few minutes I would cock my weapon. And I was just sitting there, shaking my leg, just every 5 minutes. And those guys were just sitting there scared and shaking. And I did a lot more things worse than that, but I'm not going to talk about stuff that I did because I didn't want to do those things. But this is something I can share, that I sat there scaring this man out of his wits, when in reality all he was doing was drunk and walking around in public, and we just snatched him up and threw a bag on his head. So the whole time I'm there, we're raiding houses every night, we're putting bags on people's heads, we're sending them off to Abu Ghraib while their families, these little girls, these women are crying. And one by one we're throwing them on the back of the truck like the rag dolls and sending them off to Abu Ghraib. And this is the whole time I'm there. And then we finish. The guys there, they did a year. I did my 4 months. We're going home. You know, mission complete. We're done. We're never going to see Baghdad again. Orders come in. You guys are going in Najaf for 3-4 more months. I thought we were done. We go down to Najaf, and I still haven't fired my weapon in combat. I was in many of firefights, and guys would be like, I fired 3 magazines, and I fired this. Anderson, how would you fire? I didn't have a shot. I didn't shoot. Because every time we got shot at, everybody opened fire, and I would just sit in the vehicle and I would just watch bodies drop while I was just sitting there. And I didn't do it. I didn't pull my trigger, but I didn't say nothing, which makes me just as responsible because I let it happen. But the blood's not on my hands. I didn't do the killing. And we go to Najaf, and I'm artillery. And they say, now you guys are going to do artillery. You're going to shoot artillery rounds in Najaf. And we're sitting down there in Najaf, mad that we're still there, and we're getting mortar attacked. And I remember we were getting mortar attacked, and we have a vehicle with ammo in it, 100-pound rounds. And I remember grabbing the rounds and running across this field, this desert field, while mortars are flying around me. And me and my buddies, we're 3 of us. 1, 2, 3, go! Ah! And mortars, and we're diving in, throwing the 100-pound rounds into the artillery vehicle. And they're shooting off, boom, boom, boom. And we're thinking, man, that was a crazy battle last night. I did my job. This is what I'm supposed to do. And I remember thinking, like, man, we're getting attacked by 3 or 4 mortarmen. And an artillery round, if it landed right here, it would kill everybody in this room. And the next day, my buddy comes out the truck and he says, there's like 100 bodies down there. I said, 100? It's only 3 or 4 mortarmen attacking us. I said, yeah, there's 100 plus down there. And that's when it hit me that I just killed 100 plus people thinking that I was a hero and all these great things. So we come back from Iraq. All that, we come back. And I'm in Germany. And what do guys do? They're drinking. They're partying. We had guys that got in trouble. They raped women. We had guys that were beating their wives. We had guys that were getting into drugs. And I watched one by one each one of my guys go into this. And I went home for a month after Iraq. I didn't talk about Iraq. I tried to go home and I tried to hang out with my friends, but I couldn't do it. They didn't understand that we were at war over there and we were dying while they were going to school and having fun. And then I go back to Germany. I stay in the military 6 months. I don't even talk about the war. Everything's fine. We act like nothing happens. And then I go home for Christmas, and 7 months from there I was going to go back to Iraq. And my mom started to get anti-war by this point because she was so upset from what I went through there. Because after I got hit by a roadside bomb, I called my mom and I said, Mom, I took shrapnel from a bomb today. I don't know if I'm coming home. And that was just like my buddy was in his place. Got hit by a bomb, went through the same thing. Am I going to die? They gave me a Purple Heart for it when we got back to Germany. I remember standing in formation, getting my Purple Heart, thinking like, huh, look at me. Captains are like, Anderson, I heard about you. You're a good soldier. And I look up in the window, and PFC Hagos is up there, with his shoulder messed up watching. And I said, you know, where's his Purple Heart? Where's his ceremony? He's disabled. I'm gonna be their poster boy. And they sent him home. And he went home and he had to pay out of his Iraq money to get his shoulder fixed. Yeah, people don't know about this. They're kicking us to the curb. We're going home and paying for our own medical bills. They've cut the VA benefits. And
They lied again?
yeah, they lied again. Exactly. So I tell my mom about everything I did in Iraq. Everything I told you, I told my mom. My mom said, you know, I could just see the look in her eyes, and I didn't realize to that point how wrong everything I did there was. And I said, Mom, what am I supposed to do? They're going to send me to jail if I don't go back. And she said, well, I heard about these two guys right here that went to Canada. I said, Canada? Let's go. I hopped in the car with my mom, my stepdad, and my sister, and they drove me to Canada. I got up there, I met my lawyer, I met the leader of the War Resistor Support Campaign, I met the Quaker lady who was going to take me in the house, and I lived with her for 8 months. Traveled to Canada, speaking out, did interviews, went through the whole I thought that, I wasn't even anti-war. I just knew that we committed war crimes, and I went to go speak out because it was my military duty. As a soldier, I vowed that faced with war crimes, I would resist. And I went up there and I said, we did this war crime is wrong, I'm a soldier, I'm not going to take part in it. Back home in Kentucky, they called me a traitor, a coward, and in the paper, they put a public petition to have me publicly hanged in my hometown, Kentucky. And I'm originally from Southern California, and they were like, oh, he's not even in Kentucky, he's only been here since 6th grade. And so, this is January 2005. The movement isn't what it is now. And I sat up there for 1 year and 18 months, you know, working, thinking I didn't have PTSD, until one day I cut my hair and I shaved my beard, and I looked in the mirror and I broke down and I couldn't go to work. And I realized that, you know, I did have PTSD. I wasn't as strong as I thought. And I started crying at 6 in the morning by myself because I was too ashamed to let people know I was weak. And I heard about Lieutenant Watada, I heard about Suzanne Swift, Ricky Clausen, and Mark Wilkerson, and I said, you know, I can't work no more. I can't do these things. I have to go back, because it's got to a point where I was having more nightmares about the army coming and arresting me and putting me in prison than I was about Iraq. And then I said, I gotta face these demons. I wanna go back and tell these generals that I ain't gonna participate, send me to jail, put my medals on me, and let the people see me go to prison. And I called my mom, I said, Mom, come back, let's do this. And it turned out my unit in Germany had released me from their roles and never pressed charges against me. And I figured that was a good sign that they didn't hate me and they felt what I was doing. And then, so I got in touch with Fort Knox. I said, I gotta turn myself in there. And they said, oh, when you come here, we're gonna throw you in jail for 1 year. You're never gonna see daylight again. And I said, good, I don't care no more. I said, I'll see you when I get there. And my mom went to the base a second time, and this time, this is a week or so before I was coming back, like, just come back quietly and we'll let you go. And my mom called and said, they said you come back quietly, let you go. I said, I don't care, I don't believe it. If I ain't speaking about this, then I'm just working for myself. Because I got friends that are going back. I got a cousin who's in Iraq right now, 19-year-old female. She's sitting over there in Iraq right now. And I said, I got to the base, I had a press conference right outside the base. I said, I got a Geneva Convention card. It says I'm not supposed to do these things. If we capture someone, the only thing we're supposed to get from them is their name and social security number if they have one. Not strip them naked and sick German shepherds on them. That's not in the Geneva Convention. I said George Bush is a terrorist. He needs to be convicted of war crimes. And I'm going to prison saying that. So I come in the front gate. They said, you're the guy, you're VIP, the guy we're looking for? I say, yeah, that's me. They put me in the military police vehicle up in front, didn't handcuff me. I rolled up to the facility, they shaved my head. 3 days later, I walked out with a less than honorable discharge. Wow, I'm free. Well, what just happened? No court martial, no nothing, I'm done. They said, we'll send you your papers in the mail. So I go thinking like, wow, I'm free. No, I'm not free. I'm still in Iraq. I couldn't leave the house for a month and a half. I couldn't go out into public. And then, you know, I was sitting there and like, they're coming for me, they're coming for me. They're not done with me. And then November 11th, Veterans Day rolled around. I got my discharge papers in the mail. I said, all right, where's the media at? We got to talk about something. My mom said there's a protest at Schools of America. Schools of America's down in Fort Benning, Georgia. I was like, what do they do there? Oh, they teach people how to torture people in South America. So that's where I went to basic training. I didn't know that. We rolled down there, I got down there, I'm like, wow, it's America. I've been here in 4 years. What's happening down here? And I roll up, I got my IVAW stuff. I see some other IVAW guys, I roll up. I recognize one or two because they came to Canada one time. And they had this big Iraq Veterans Against the War school bus. I was like, dang, I need to get on that. And they're like, well, we're going to New Orleans for a PTSD retreat, and we're going to do relief work. I told Mom I got to go with them. She was mad. She didn't want me to. She wanted me to get into school. She wanted me to start getting a job. And she was upset. After all I came through and I'm finally home, then I'm just going to leave. And I said, Mom, I can't be there. I can't be in Kentucky. I can't be home. I can't go to school. I can't get a job. And so I'm sitting down in New Orleans. We're on the bayou for a week. I'm thinking, you know, what am I going to do? I'm supposed to speak in San Francisco at a National Day for Resistors. And I said, well, let's take the bus to San Francisco. They got a protest there. And they're like, oh, IVAW don't got money for that. I was like, I'll raise the money myself. So me and this fellow Michael Kazort, Afghanistan vet, we said, we'll do it. We'll raise the money ourselves. And then we had Ethan Kroll, he's a coastie. He rolled with us. And we had Damon Murphy, he's a submariner. And these guys aren't Iraq veterans, but they're Iraq Air veterans, so they're in our organization. And they said, we'll help you. So us 4 guys, we hopped on the bus, we rode across country, hitting Tucson, San Diego, LA, San Francisco. And one night, I'm getting calls, people are starting to hear I'm back, and they said Suzanne Swift and Lieutenant Watada are getting court-martialed January 5th, January 8th. I said, well, let's go park the bus up there and camp outside the base. And they're like, all right, let's do it. And we're calling people, we're telling them we're gonna camp outside the base, and they're like, you guys are crazy. We get up there, we have the pretrial protest. They already sent Suzanne Swift to prison. They sped her stuff up, so we couldn't be there for her. By the time we got there, she got released from prison. We got there to pretrial, I spoke at the rally. I said, that bus is parked right there, and it's not leaving till the trial's over, not till February. And they were like, oh, all right. So we set up a camp for 6 days. I went down to Miami for a PTSD retreat, so I went there a few days. But old Dennis Kyne, I picked him up in Santa Cruz. He was there with Ethan, and they were 2 times a day. Power fisting soldiers as they come off the base. They see the bus, they know who we are. After 6 days of this, we had soldiers honking. Soldiers rolling by in their civilian clothes and screaming out the window. And I remember like, wow, I was just coming up here for Watada and Suzanne Swift. I didn't think the soldiers were gonna, I never heard of soldiers power fisting anti-war guys. And that's when it hit me that they're done. They're not going back for a 3rd time. Because that's where I would be if I didn't go AWOL. I'd be on my 3rd tour right now. 3 years in Iraq. 3 years. Could you imagine Vietnam vets? Could you imagine going back to Vietnam 3 times? 3 years, you don't come back from that. You go to Iraq, but you don't come back. And then we got kicked off the grounds after 6 days. I saw it coming. I was waiting for it. So, all right, we got some free time. Let's go to Portland. I got hooked up with Recruiter Watch, and I spoke in high school today. And I told him everything I told you.